We always make these at your command. Like so this is like I can I say make one of these on my own initiative. But I turned the camera away and like it was gonna be this holiday bag on the camera, but you banged on black like that's ego. I just thought this was really interesting. I like this for new to start the new year. Like we're making our New Year's resolutions, but also like right, like what since we do our political activity, like what should be what's actually rational to be on our mind. This I found they should in the Barbara Ern. This is really I think this would be a great thing to like have in our heads like as we move to the new year and like something to think about. Like I like this is really cool. Bar- Barbara Ehrenreich's book Nickel and Dime about like the working poor in America, like that we made a video about it. This is what they should. This what's really interesting is this discussion or not discuss kind of discussion questions at the end or just things to think about. I just wanted to read these. I think this is really great for everyone, but should think about. They're good. It's a good thing. Like here's some questions just generally to think keep in mind. Like they once again like what she did is interesting. I think that's there's a show like this, but she did it in a more serious way. She's a magazine writer. She like a master's degree and all, but what she did she took a bunch of different jobs that are like low wage jobs, like we say like the working poor, would like right, and kind of went undercover, like got a job in a diner, as a restaurant, got a job as a maid as a a maid in a hotel, like took a bunch of different jobs that were like what the people who what's called the working poor, like and sort of was undercover in the sense of like see what it was like. Now here's the thing. This is really but here's there's at the end like she offers or the who are put it together with her like offers some things to think, and without even saying what the content of her different like sort of discoveries was, the questions are just these are great questions for all of us to have on mind, especially with what's going on right now, like what's going on right now economically, and with finally talking about like, raising the minimum wage. I thought these were great. I mean, these are good questions to keep in mind, just generally. Um, this is what she said. Um, okay. Housing costs pose the greatest obstacle for low-wage workers. Why does our society seem to resist looking into this problem, or rectifying this problem? Do you believe that there are realistic solutions to the lack of affordable housing? Question being, like one main thing she became aware of is that with the main problem, like when you're making the kind of wages like minimum wage or just like low wage jobs, like working in a diner, working a cash register, working as a maid, the fundamental problem is like where are you gonna live on that on that amount of money? Like where are you gonna live? Keeping in mind, by the way, that low-income housing is very often like dangerous to live in what they're calling low-income housing. Because I looked at that, it's not necessarily like, oh, isn't there low-income housing? Well, if you have a job or something, like I'm not sure that's not this. It's really not. A lot of people don't want to live in what they're calling it. Those aren't really. Sometimes those neighborhoods aren't safe in a way that like if you're working like double shift somewhere it's not really good. The point is that rent generally is so expensive everywhere to what that's the main thing is where to live is what the problem is with making that with wages being so low. Okay, while working as a maid, Aaron Reich hears right. How do the assumptions of the supervisors of low wage workers affect their employees? Like, what is the attitude like? How are low wage workers treated by those who supervise them? Very important thing, like to think it's a lot of jobs. People say like, what's something to think about with when someone's doing a job where they're being paid an incredibly little amount, those type or minimum wage. Who's supervising them and how are they treated? is part of the issue. They're not working a lot right. It's not just the job; it's who you have to work for. How are such people who are making that lower wage being treated by their supervisors? Or it's like what kind of people supervise and what's their attitude towards a low wage worker, like who's being paid so little, and maybe that kind of thing. Something to think about. It's been mentioned to me before. Okay. Right. Ehrenreich is white. Okay. She asserts that her experience. She got the impression that her experience would have been radically different had she been a person of color, or had she been a person of color. Do you think? What do you think of that? That is to say, like, okay, like there's all kinds of people making minimum wage, low wage, working, what we call a working poor. Is the situation for such people just in the experience of it, the way they're treated, finding housing, these things? Is it radically? Do you think it would be radically different whether you're white or if you're not white? Like, is it in such a situation where we're being paid that little? Right, this is the best one. Okay, Ehrenreich found that she could not survive on, for example, $7 per hour. Not if she wanted to live indoors. Consider how her experiment would have played out in your community. Limiting yourself to $7 an hour. Well, in this case, they're saying $7 per hour earnings. Create a hypothetical monthly budget for your part of the country. It was make a budget. Just pretend for a minute you make the minimum wage, or you make your $7 an hour. More than now. Make a budget for yourself. Like how will you be living, and see what you discover. Like try. And she discovered like this. You can't really live on this if you want to live indoors. I don't know. Really. I mean, this is like kind of these. Are you putting me in pain for bringing this up, or am I being like? No, I mean, it's all the different things to think about people who. I mean, while they're talking about raising the minimum wage, like there's 1,000 things, but like I never heard it posed as questions. I don't want to be in pain though, guys. I thought that was. Sorry. I could do this again. I don't want to do it. I thought. When make all these videos under duress, I thought like this would be a good thing to do. We don't have to read all the questions. I'm sorry.